Dude, that catering back there and under the Triple H regime at WrestleMania must be fucking something special. That sounds like an open bar gimmick back there in catering. You got it.
I love the doofuses that are out there. Like, you put a world title on Jey Uso, and look, he's a sloppy drunk. He's being irresponsible. Blah blah blah. It's like, okay, so Ric Flair's been drinking and taking his dick out on airplanes for 40 years. You're all right with that? That's fine.
Yeah, but Ric Flair used to do.
Somebody apparently last or the night before last at the press conference. He was
of course. What the fuck?
You just won the world title. Fucking
it was after the show. I am off the clock. And Nate, why did you sound like Gary Hart when you were doing when you were cutting that promo about him being drunk out on the podium or whatever? Like, you sound like you were Gary Hart, like you were one of Gary Hart's blacks.
Listen here, Ricky Flair. Listen here, Ricky Flair.
You come out there all eating up, all drunk on the podium.
How drunk do you think Johnny Cena got after WrestleMania? I'm sure he got fucking hammered. That dude loves the party.
Dude, I'm not surprised. Wouldn't be surprised. Don't give a fuck if they were all partying before, during. Like, what? It's WrestleMania. You know what I mean? It ain't Supercard of Honor and shit. You know what I'm saying?
It's wrestling. It's wrestling. Let's be honest. The promotion that we discuss on this podcast, that locker room,
they were fucking eating all over themselves. Yeah, fuck all that shit. Yeah, fuck all that, man. Dude, there'd be a good chance that if I was working there and I was at WrestleMania, they would have to come find me to go to the ring. Much less not be talking to my opponent and getting all ready for it.
That's why
I applaud.
I was just going to say, that's why sometimes for your own sanity, it's best just to avoid, if you can, avoid pro wrestling on the internet, avoid pro wrestling social media, because everybody's got a fucking opinion. And I love posts that start with, I don't watch anymore, but, and then they proceed to tell you about something they just watched that they don't watch anymore. You look like a fucking idiot.
I applaud Jay. If Jay did get hammered after winning the title, I applaud him.
Dude,
good for him. It's like, what was he supposed to do? Do what like the AEW guys, other than Moxley, probably do, and go fucking. Oh, I won the world title. I'm gonna go play Fortnite now.
Drink some matcha tea.
The people that would have a problem with that are the people that, unfortunately, they watch pro wrestling and don't have much else going on. I mean, who cares?
Never been made.
They never saw Nick Gage come to the ring. I mean, what
Gary Hart says, you probably ain't never seen a naked lady.
Yes. At the ECW arena. Of course, dude. What the fuck? I mean, as soon as I see a post that starts out with either this is why Triple H should be removed, or you got to do something about Triple H. Like, just the credibility gone. I turned the ceiling fan on, a box fan, open all the windows, your credibility out the fucking door.
Yeah.
Get it gone. The fuck? This is why Triple H needs to be removed. What does he do? I mean, do you think he's right? Do you think he's getting up in the morning, every morning, like, I don't know, Jim Cornette, Jim Barnett, any of them guys, David Crockett, any of them guys, and he's writing the fucking shows? He's like, oh, I got a great idea. You know?
The only guy coming out of the fucking WrestleMania weekend that did anything like negative towards Hunter that I'll laugh at and be like, all right, I'll let him do that, was when did you guys see that look Brett gave after Hunter shook hands with him?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, fuck this guy. It's like, I'll give Brett that. Yeah. But other than that, yeah, people need to fucking leave Hunter alone.
I'm starting to just like give Brett like not even like a pass of being bitter anymore. I think he's starting to be borderline handicapped. and he's just not gonna like anybody, no matter what the fuck they done for him. Hadn't done
He's like,
for him.
he's had somebody had to replace Ole.
Yeah,
When Ole
right.
died, Brett replaced Ole. He gets to
He's
be
not-
he gets to be the old fucking curmudgeon now.
He's not
And
getting.
he gets to be Ole because Ole was a dick, and I've said this a lot. You can be a dick, but you have to be funny. You know what I mean? Like you can't be a dick and not be funny. Brett's a dick and he's funny, so I'll give him the pass. Like you can't be a
Well,
dick and not be funny. Then you're just Bruno San Martino. You know what I mean?
I tell you,
But if
Now
you're a
he's-
dick and you're funny about it, I'll give you a pass. And that's what Ole was for me. So yeah, you're right. Brett's the new Ole. And
Yeah,
you're a little bit better than everybody that you're talking shit about. So yeah, you're good.
Brett just seems like shit just comes out of his mouth. And then that's when you get that smirk afterwards.
yeah.
Like when the reality sets in and what he just said.
There is almost nothing better than the Bret Hart shit-eating grin.
Yeah,
He gave
even
that
with
to
my,
Hunter after Hunter shook his hand. He gave him the Bret Hart shit-eating grin and like looked over his feet. Look at this fucking guy.
even with my stroke and everything else, I'm looking like a lemon head and shit. Like I would still fuck you up, Hunter. You know, that's why he gave that look. Shit. He basically said, "Nigga, please, just shake my hand, get on with fucking Michelle McCool." Oh, that was great. Yeah, Bret Hart's classic, man. I mean, he really is. He's somebody that I would love to run into at an airport, like, and he had like a 7-hour layover or some shit, and we just happened to be at like the Applebee's or whatever in the airport. Oh
Do you-
yeah, I'm getting.
Do you have an hour for me to talk about Bill Goldberg?
Sure. Keep 'em coming.
Like I saw some
Look
meme.
Look for
I
a
saw
Tim
this-
Hortons. It'll be at Tim Hortons.
I saw this meme that had it was like a 4 different panels of like almost like a comic thing, and it said ways to be Bret Hart, and it said be the best, put people in sharpshooters, love Canada, hate Bill Goldberg.
Like the internet definitely had a little bit of fun with some of that. I saw one where it was instead of the girl yelling at the person behind the counter at the fast food place, it was Bill Goldberg wearing a Burger King hat, and Brett was being the angry like Karen or whatever he did, and he's pointing the finger, and he's like, "You ended my career."
Well, back to now that we've talked about some modern stuff, some Bret the Hitman Hart, let's talk about ECW. February 11th, 1997 is the episode of ECW TV that we are reviewing this week. We haven't seen him for a minute, but we get to open this week's episode with Tommy Dreamer.
Of course.
Tommy Dreamer Community Theater talking about April 13th, 1997, Barely Legal, coming up on pay-per-view.
Masterpiece of shit theater.
Yeah. Well, Tommy Dreamer can talk all he wants about being at Barely Legal. But what was the show that Tommy Dreamer wasn't on? Wasn't it One Night Stand? Doesn't Paul always bring that up?
No, Tommy was on One Night Stand.
Well, then was he on like this
I
show?
don't-
The one that's like coming up or something? Because he wasn't on one of these shows.
Well, he
One
didn't
that-
wrestle. He's not going to wrestle on Barely Legal.
Okay, all right. So he's not on Barely Legal. That's what it was. But I just know they
Yeah,
always
we're-
make a big deal about it.
Yeah, well, not to do a spoiler, but he's not. He's talking about being on Barely Legal, but he's not going to end up being on it because he's gonna selflessly do something that we don't want to spoil for the 12-year-olds that are listening. But in this Tommy Dreamer highlight where he's talking about being this great guy, they show the history of Tommy Dreamer and
Everything he
how
does
great he
terribly.
is. How great he is. And I have 2 of the great highlights of this great man Tommy Dreamer.
Okay.
And there's 2 glowing highlights of how much of a much of a glowing baby face he is. And in 2 of these highlights, he drops a 110-pound woman on her head.
Okay.
And then some other shit happens to him. And then he ends up striking a defenseless man in the head with a steel chair.
Well, I mean,
What an upstanding guy, that Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah.
EC Dub?
EC
I don't
Dumb.
know. It's fucking Tommy Dreamer. Seriously, enough.
Were there honest to God, I gotta be honest here. Did they have like Tommy Dreamer promos in between clips on this? Because to be perfectly honest with you, once the video started, I skipped it. Because I was like, oh, this is just a video of all the shit Tommy Dreamer's ever done. I'm not gonna watch it.
They didn't have clips between it. They just Tommy did his masterpiece of shit theater, and they showed clips. And like they showed a lot of him getting caned by Sandman, with woman being like,
Yeah, it was all like
Fleetzer may have another and all that. But like I said,
it was all highlights if Terry Dreamer or Terry Dreamer was editing his own best of footage. That's what it was. That's what it was. I mean, it was, like all his like, I'm the baby face here. Check me out in the window. And it's like, and to me, I was like, dude, you stink. You are not my baby face. Even Aaron, you're probably the one that would know this. Like, didn't he even seem like cheesy, like during that? Knowing what you know now about Dreamer?
Yeah. It was a bunch of put upon Tommy moments.
Yeah, and that's fucking awful. That's gonna hurt the grade of this fucking episode.
Well, after that, we get Joey introing the show, discussing the fact that the Barely Legal show is going to be on pay-per-view. They show us the Dr. Death Steve Williams saga from last week, so more recapping the Extreme there. And then we go into Terry Funk versus Tommy Rich.
That's a classic right there. I couldn't wait to sit down, go to the refrigerator, and get a beer for this one. I'm like, oh, this is what I've always been waiting for my whole entire life. Tommy Rich and Terry Funk at the ECW arena. Oof. Wow.
Tommy Rich got the "you fat fuck" treatment from the ECW crowd. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
I wrote down here, I wanted to ask you or Chad what they were chanting, because for some reason I couldn't make it out. So I'm glad you were able to.
They said you fat fuck is what they were chanting at Tommy Rich.
And he didn't even try
as they sit in their seats being fat fucks.
Yeah.
and Tommy had on them fucking long trunks, whatever. They were the bright colors, and he had them pulled up well past his navel. And he was just strutting around that ring. That gut was just hanging out. All of it was. It was spectacular. It was glorious.
And somebody
say something about getting Waffle House.
And obviously wrestling is revisionist, and they leave shit out, whether it's I don't know what to say, like if it's good for the storyline, like we were talking about last week, where Steve Williams hasn't been pinned in the United States, whatever, and he had obviously been pinned. But Nate, I don't know if you remember, we were trying to figure out if Terry Funk and Tommy Rich had a match, and Joey actually said in commentary, like, believe it or not, this is the first one-on-one match between Tommy Rich and Terry Funk. So if they're being accurate with it, this is actually the first match between Terry Funk and Tommy Rich.
You know me, once I'm on something like that, I actually do start researching it. Like, it drives me nuts. And I went through history of WWE.com. I went through
Cage Match,
a few Cage Match. I couldn't find one, so I guess unless
accurate,
they,
I guess.
They just were never in the same territory during the territory days. Really, if you think about it, they always missed each other.
That sounds like that would just depend on a day, like one day. How in the fuck did you two not ever cross paths? Like, name a territory, name one, and then like it had to have been like by 24 or 36 hours, that they never got a chance to work before.
Yeah, think about how much. Think about him going in and out of Memphis,
Of course,
in and out of Georgia.
from 77 to like 84, I guess you would say. Never like.
Somebody says to Tommy Rich something about Terry Funk. He's like, you know what? I ain't never met that guy.
And I'm not trying to Barry Horowitz myself, but I said when I saw I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I said when they did that thing where Tommy Rich attacked Tommy Dreamer and Terry Funk in the back stage a couple weeks ago, they were going to put Funk and Rich in a match and try to say, well, not try to say because it actually was, but they also try to be like, oh, this is former NWA champion versus former NWA champion. It's like, okay, well, this is Terry Funk, NWA champion, and Tommy Rich,
who was transporting the belt. He was just taking it from Columbus to like whatever to give it to Harley Race. Yeah. There was a difference.
He just took it from Columbus, Georgia to Macon, Georgia on a Greyhound.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, a huge match between two former world champions, Ric Flair and David Arquette.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't dispute it.
This is true.
I mean, we can sit here and make fun of fat ass.
If Tony Schiavone were here, he'd say this is If Tony Schiavone were here, he'd say this is one of the most important nights in the history of professional wrestling. The moment we've all been waiting for. The match
the world has been waiting for. Yeah. Well, but the match itself was pretty good, actually.
No, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, I mean, they did what you would want them to do. I mean, what kind of match were you expecting them to do? So, yeah, they gave me pretty much what I wanted out of them too for that time period, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rich busted himself open. Like Rich bladed himself 2 minutes into the match, and they brawled around and everything. It was a decent fucking Southern brawl. You can't fault the match.
If you miss the spot where Rich blades himself, which never is that hard to miss. It's the spot where he falls down to his knees and clutches his arms to his side, just so like the camera can like get that picture of his forehead, like when he's gigged. He does it all the time. It's the favorite Tommy Rich pose. You'll never see him not in that pose right after he just gigs. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where Funk's beating him over the head and he just gigs, and then he's on his knees and his hands are down by his side and he's just trying to force the blood out.
He probably accidentally shit himself a few times.
Oh yeah, he shit himself when he realized he had to go 5 minutes. Yeah, that turd came out well before the bell rang, or Whiskey Bent and Hellbound came on.
Funny thing about Rich is I assume watching the early times of Tommy Rich and ECW I think he was supposed to be like one of those guys, like a Ricky Morton or a Tully Blanchard or somebody that was supposed to be kind of a guy from the past that came in and went out pretty quick, and he's just stuck around. And that's cool. I mean, it's entertaining, but I get the feeling that at first they weren't intending on him being a regular in ECW.
You can't. No, that Tommy Rich was going to come out of. I mean, the Tommy Rich of that time period was coming out of that shell. Well, I was there. I was with him when he walks into the stupid convenience store with me and Axel and Jeff, and he's like, "Who got the crack for the wildfire?" That was his first night in. And he's like, "Who got crack with Tommy Rich, world champion?" And it's like, nobody got crack right here. We're like someplace in Massachusetts somewhere or something. No, nobody had crack for the wildfire. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, we got Tommy Rich in 1997, dude. I had already had a couple years under my belt chasing him down in Memphis, like not chasing him like to find him, to get out of his wake because of all the destruction that he did down there with all the rats and everybody that era that was generous to all the boys. He ruined all that shit.
Well, he and Funk here have a good brawl. The chair is entered into the match early, and like Chad said, excuse me, Rich gets color pretty early in this thing, and then pretty much like I said, it's just a brawl. I don't know. I didn't take any specific notes other than that, and then the finish. It was fun to watch, though.
Funk won with the spinning toe hold.
That's classic right there, man.
Which,
that was great. Did you like that, Aaron?
It was all right, but there's a few moves in wrestling that like major great legends do that I'm like, that move fucking sucks. Like, and I just don't get it. And that's like, I've never been a big fan of the spinning toe hold. It's kind of like the Luthez press. It's like, I understand Luthez was great, but that fucking move sucks.
What about the standing Granby? Did you ever get the standing Granby? Or you obviously never got a go behind from Bearcat Right. Sorry, buddy.
Just like that move just always, I thought that move was fucking ridiculous.
Well, I mean, have you ever tried it to somebody? Like you know how you've always fucked around as a kid, you probably did the figure 4 leg lock, and that shit hurts. Like if you really did a figure 4 leg lock, have you ever tried to give like Nate the spinning toe hold?
No.
I haven't given it to anybody either. I don't know. It could hurt. For all I know, it could be devastating.
I definitely don't want to give it to him. Now he has diabetes. I don't want like 2 fucking toes to pop off in my hand. Shit.
Like a cauliflower ear, but it's a toe.
Yeah, it's just ripped off your big toe and your.
It's a couple of them.
Secondary.
They just fall
your
off.
Big toe and your secondary one. I don't need
Make
that.
sure you get a picture with it though.
I don't need that on my conscience. But yeah, the spinning toe hold, I just thought it was kind of stupid.
And after, like I said, I enjoyed this match.
I enjoyed the next thing much more.
Afterwards, we get Folksy Terry Funk, and he's telling us the story of Freckles Brown, the old bull rider.
I ain't telling Freckles Brown's story. You go ahead and tell it. I just couldn't stop laughing, so I didn't even fucking hear it.
Freckles Brown was a broken down bull rider, and he tried, and then eventually he got on that bull, and he just couldn't do it anymore, and it threw him off. And Terry Funk now compares himself to Freckles Brown,
okay,
and can't get on that. I think did he call it the Bull Widowmaker?
Yes,
Marty.
And
he made a Dory reference during this.
But he's comparing himself to Freckles Brown now because he's got to possibly face Raven coming up because he wants to become the ECW champion.
You think Freckles Brown was a white guy?
He wants to. He says,
I don't think if I had to pick a race, I don't think Freckles Brown would be a white guy.
Yeah, but do you think he was a white black guy? Like one of them guys like that Seinfeld make fun of or something? You know, is he white? Is he black? Got an afro, but it's red.
And he's got freckles.
Freckles Brown would be an African American man, I think.
He has to be, but he's white. He's white black, right? Isn't that right?
Like Lawrence Fishburne?
No, he's he's way too black. Like Darren from Seinfeld, or whoever the guy was from Seinfeld that didn't know whether he was black or not.
Yeah,
when
he's dating Elaine, and she's like she doesn't know if she's in an interracial relationship or not.
That's Freckles Brown to me. He looks like the redheaded kingpin. Yeah, that's Freckles Brown.
But yes, pretty much. Old folksy Terry says, Freckles Brown just wanted to have his day and ride that bull, and Terry wants to have his day and face Raven for the ECW World Championship.
And he wants to ride that bull
longer than 8 seconds.
I
want to go longer than 8 seconds. Who, Terry? Or Freckles? I don't know who the hell Freckles is riding. Freckles stinks. He should have been a character in each. Why didn't Terry fucking bring out Freckles Brown? Jason, whatever his name, John Gillum got a gig.
Trying to think of a bowl that Terry Funk rode. What, Mae Young, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Probably in her prime, too. So that'd be mid-60s. Moolah. Oh, yeah. He spent a couple nights at Moolah Lane. Peggy Lee Leathers was beating girls and shit.
Yeah.
Freckles Brown.
Just one of those giant dykes that Terry Funk might have rode. I'm trying to think who that bull was.
Donna Cristanello.
I don't know who listens to this show, but I'm not saying any real names. No. I might get some bookings coming up. I ain't jeopardizing that shit.
Well, after this, they show us the Dudley turn from last week with Bubba joining Devon as the Dudley Boys. Then we get a promo from the Dudleys about the gangsters, and of course, Bubba says that they're a couple of puh cowards. I enjoyed that. and then
him running around trying to find him. And Devon being all serious and shit. Like it. I know Bubba's gonna get serious going forward later on, but it was kind of cool because Bubba hasn't completely lost the craziness of his character yet. You know what I mean? So it didn't go like, oh, I'm a whatever
stuttering idiot.
Yeah, I'm not a fucking idiot. And then the next week I'm serious. Like he still did he's still trying to do his goofy gimmick a little bit, and it'll eventually weed it out. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I kind of like that.
You have to evolve. You have to evolve.
Yeah, there's 100% chance that Paul said this. That Paul said this to him. We have to get out of the stuttering. We're going in a different. I mean, that goes without even being there. Even though that Paul said that we have to drop the stuttering, but we can't drop it at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Or if we do drop it, kind of like what they did, then we got to acknowledge it. Oh yeah.
Say he's been to a fucking speech coach or something.
Hey, look at George Steele. Did wonders for him. Look, how now, brown cow? I mean, seriously.
How now, brown cow?
I mean, didn't Kamala learn how to talk too? Shit, I mean, all these fucking idiots. All these idiots can learn how to talk. They know how to catch a check.
There is a Kamala promo when they put him with Reverend Slick in the WWF in '93. And Gene Okerlund is interviewing Slick with Kamala there. And I know Kamala was doing it as a rib. But as Slick is cutting his promo, Kamala does the shit so fucking loud. You can see he's almost breaking Gene Okerlund because I'll have to find it and send it to you guys. But he is absolutely ribbing Slick because Slick's talking, and James Harris just keeps going. He is so loud about it. It's really funny.
I'm sure that's happened a couple times. Oh yeah, that was probably just the one they could air.
The fucking greatest one with him is when Gene Okerlund was fucking with him about not making his towns or whatever.
What was this on?
I knew you were supposed to be in Newark. He didn't show up.
That's from
James Harris.
That's from some of those '87 promos, I think.
Yeah, and James Harris was like, "Well, I had to be in my hotel. I got some fucky."
Oh, okay.
It was good shit.
Oh, was that a blooper reel or something?
Yeah,
I don't think that aired.
Gene was like, "What I hear about you, Kamala? Not what the shit I hear about you not making your tapings and Let me hear about you not making your towns and wherever the
Newark?
fuck they were supposed to
You
be.
guys, it's
Newark
got to be Newark. It's got to be Newark.
and fucking. I was like, I was at the hotel to get some fucky.
Big Jim Harris.
The next match on our
I
show
actually really like the next thing.
The next match on our show is Balls Mahoney versus the debuting Lance Storm. The debut of Lance Storm in ECW.
Crowd was kind of mixed on this, weren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, like they didn't kind of like some of them knew like who he was, and some of them didn't, and some of them just their first impression was he stinks. So I was kind of like, wow, they really they were kind of mixed on Lance Storm.
Yeah, and what first thing I was gonna say is obviously Nate's known me for my entire life, so he knows what I'm gonna think. I'm a huge Lance Storm fan. I really like Lance.
Oof. Whatever.
You can say what you want to say, but I'm a huge Lance Storm fan. But I was gonna ask Chad about you watched the match, right, Chad?
Right.
There was that spot where Balls Mahoney went to go out of the ring, like he bumped over the ropes, and it looked, and I'm sure they fucked. I was gonna say it looked like they fucked it up, but it's like I don't know if you're gonna remember what spot I'm talking about, but it looked like Balls Mahoney tried to do like the Cactus Jack spot where like he got his head like caught between the top and the middle rope, but they fucked it up and he fell out.
Oh, you talking about like when he did like the spin kick or the like when he tried to like hold the rope and like still kick him, and then
Yeah.
okay,
And then
yeah,
Balls went over. I don't know if it was. I thought it looked like Balls Mahoney was trying to do that cactus spot where he'd get his head stuck in the ropes, but I don't know if I'm off.
Oh,
talking about
I'll
that.
tell you what. Knowing that fucking idiot, he probably was trying it, but once he got the feel of them ropes and he realized that wasn't happening, and then his thought process went, "I better just fall to the floor," because yeah, them ropes aren't like depending on the ring. Like literally, they were all like for the most part around this time they're really starting to shop around and get different rings and shit. Or if they get them still get them from Petty or whoever, it may not be the one they had before. You know what I mean? So yeah, Balls could have easily had felt them ropes before prior and thought, I'm gonna do that head spot, and then when he hit them cables and he's like, they ain't doing that.
Yeah, when I watched it, I was like, oh, Boo tried to do that fucking cactus spot, and like I said, he either fucked it up or changed his mind.
Well, Cactus did that spot in WCW a lot, like on the Europe shit and stuff when they had ropes, and then WCW is the same thing too. Dude, that shit with a cable was hard as a mug, man. Like it's really hard. Like I mean, like Cactus, Vader, like guys like that could probably do it, and Balls probably could too. But like I said, he probably felt them cables, and they said that didn't happen. Yeah, it makes sense. I believe it.
These two have a nice little back and forth, kind of a match here, highlighting both of them, but trying to get over Lance Storm more because it's his debut in ECW. He's even still got the rat tail going on here. Hasn't got rid of that yet.
And we still haven't had Balls' coming out party yet, have we?
No, I don't think he's doing the chair swinging freak thing yet.
All right, so he's basically he's basically kind of in the Axel League now. Is where he's in the Axel League.
He's still doing kind of Boo Bradley and not
putting guys over.
Yeah, like he doesn't have the tattoos and the hair and all that shit. Yeah, he's still just kind of there.
All right, that makes sense. But yeah, it was all right. I mean, I'm sure that they probably worked together for Cornette, right? I mean, at some point. And maybe even Japan, but yeah, I mean, Balls is the kind of guy that could really work with anybody. To tell you the truth, I'm not even a fan of the dude, but he can just work with anybody and do. He can do a lot more shit than he gets credit for.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen, especially like and this is not this isn't putting over the WWE ECW, but when WWE, did their own version of ECW and they actually brought him into WWE, like, I don't know how to say it. It was you could see some things that he did when he was there that he just didn't have to do in the actual ECW. But once he got to WWE, he showed some more of the actual technical wrestling ability that he had.
Well, yeah, he was a Monster Factory guy. I mean,
again, it's one of those things where if you don't have to do it, why do it? But if you can, once in a while, it's cool to see a guy like that kind of put some of that into his repertoire just for the hell of it,
Okay, well, I could also make the argument of why would I want to exchange doing what I learned how to do for doing what he did. like, I'll take the wrist lock, whatever, headlock, takeover, abdominal stretch every night over chair shots to the face. Now, I'm not doing that every night. Yeah, but and he could do it. He could do moonsaults and shit. But whatever, man. That's what the guy liked doing. I watched that stupid hardcore thing on Vice or whatever about hardcore wrestling. These idiots, they want to do that shit. I don't get, whatever.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I don't get the mentality.
No, I mean but that's what Balls liked, and Balls had the same problems that Axel had and all that other stuff. And I'm sure we're not too far off from them. That could be a catalyst too.
So Lance Storm wins this match with a spin kick off the top rope. And like Chad said, it seems like it's going to take the ECW crowd a little bit to warm up to Lance Storm because they just didn't know what to. I don't know if they didn't like it or if they just didn't know what to think. I know if you look at the rundown of the Crossing the Line Again show, this was actually the opening match of the show overall. So, everybody's still getting settled in. They're still being rowdy. Haven't really started getting into the show yet. So I don't know what the verdict is, but I know the crowd didn't take to Lance right away here.
Yeah, he was the kind of guy that if you're there with a couple of your friends, one of them knew who he was, and he's going to elbow you. And you're going to be like, who is this?
Well, and he's also, honestly, let's be honest, he is also like, who am I going to? He's also like Greg Valentine. If you put Greg Valentine, you put Greg Valentine in a match and you say you got 4.5 minutes, he's not even warmed up by 4.5 minutes. You know what I mean? Greg Valentine's got to get 10 minutes just to get in high gear in a match. And Lance Storm's kind of the same way.
Oh yeah, I mean, Lance Storm. Nobody's ever accused Lance Storm of not having a catch tank. That's not ever, even to this day. I don't think anybody's accusing him of doing that stuff. Yeah. But it's just, do I want to spend my time watching him not get blown up? That's what it came down to me. The faster you can put Balls Mahoney away, the better it is for me.
Unless you had something else on that match, Aaron, we'll go on to the next segment.
Come on.
All right.
I don't think Aaron had anything on that match.
The next thing is a Raven promo. And I actually liked the gist of this promo because Raven talks about how he's kind of jealous of Terry Funk because not because of the way you think. It was because, Terry Funk had this great relationship with his father, apparently, and told the sad story a couple of weeks ago about his father dying in his arms. And Raven hits it with, I wish my dad would have died in my arms. And I like the punchline on that one. I thought that was good shit.
Didn't even bring up that like Terry Funk married like his high school sweetheart or his
yeah. He's just talking about how Terry Funk's got this enchanted life and
okay. Yeah, it's just like, look at you. If you're trying to draw the parallels between the Raven character and Terry Funk character. Like, I remember him talking about the father dying and all the other stuff. But yeah, I was like, he brought up like relationships and shit that he didn't even care for. Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, Raven's pretty good at connecting dots with this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Aaron, you're a Ravens fan, right?
Sorry, I got a message. It's like you guys are saying, like the Raven promo was really good, and we're gonna get a lot of good shit coming up between Terry and Raven, and wait, and it's like there's a like with the dad thing and all that. Like Terry's or Raven's gonna come up later on being like, "Oh yeah, you remind me of my father." And you know what? I hated my father, and it's all good shit.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So
I'm
go ahead.
sure neither one of these two had a problem like going over promos. You know what I mean? Like for their
Yeah.
If Paul had to tell them what the date was for or what show was for to cut a promo, yeah, it wasn't that hard. It wasn't like it wasn't me or Don E.
They probably cut most of them at 2 a.m.
or later. Probably later. The show was still going on at 2 a.m.
So the next thing we have here on the show, it's the ECW World Tag Team Championships. The Eliminators versus Rob Van Dam and Sabu. And my first note is Sabu's velvet purple pants are pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the third time we've seen this already. I mean, maybe the third time or fourth time we've seen it on TV. That was like the second run match because I feel like they did recaps of the first time they had their match for weeks.
Yeah, they've showed us bits and pieces of this match.
Yeah,
ever since the show got taped, and now they're going to show us almost the whole thing. I mean, they obviously this is an edited version of the match.
Yeah, I like Sabu. I personally like Sabu when he wears the tuxedo or the suit like jacket thing when he wears the turban like that. Like that's my favorite Sabu when he especially when he does a surprise appearance. Like that's my favorite Boo. When he's got the tuxedo on or the suit and the headgear. Yeah, that's great. But yeah, he had his purple on. He brought his working boots. He had to. You don't think the Eliminators and Rob are going to let Sabu get away with being lazy? No. Fuck. That wasn't happening tonight, buddy.
From what I remember, I think Nate, you were talking about like recaps of it or whatever. I'm pretty sure this is this two teams. I think this is their second match because they did that one where like they talked about it being like the greatest match in North American history or whatever.
Maybe you're right. Maybe that's the one they've been showing us clips of.
Yeah, this wasn't in it. This was their rematch. Because in that first one, it was where they taped like Sabu to the table and did the total elimination and all that. But yeah, this was their second match, and it's obviously better than their first one. And I like the fact that they teased that Saturn was going to jump off a ladder put on top of a table.
Oh
but
yeah,
even Saturn was like, we'll tease it, but you guys need to go ahead and knock me off of that because I'm not jumping off of a fucking ECW table or ECW ladder.
Saturn was clearly going to do that, and then and he got up there, and even his crooked eye ass fucking thought differently about that spot.
I'm not going to do this.
I'm better off with Peaches than I am with this shit. Fuck all that. Yeah, he totally changed his mind on that high spot. Hey, I don't blame him.
I even put in my notes that Saturn gets knocked off the toddler.
Whatever that
ladder
was.
combo, the toddler.
It borderline looked like a part of the game Mousetrap. Like when you get to the finish.
Is there a piece of cheese up there? What is going on?
Like he's jumping off a ladder, jump on a table that has a ladder with some chairs. Well, I don't know what the hell this guy's trying to do. But all I know is he got there and he said, I ain't doing it. Hit New Jack music. Get his donkey ass out here.
Let me see here. See if I have any.
That was the high spot, basically.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I don't have any other really like notes other than just they're just doing moves to each other, and there's I don't know that I hate to say this because I like everybody that's involved in the match, but you watch a match like this, and sometimes with guys that want to do, everybody wants to get their spot in.
Right.
There doesn't seem to be a cohesive story in this match of what, like, you're just moving from spot to spot.
All right.
And I don't know what and that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying it's hard to tell what the narrative of the match is when they're just like, all right, I've got a table over here. What are we gonna do with this table? Well, we didn't really think that through. Or like you were saying, we'll put the ladder on top of the table, and somebody can jump off of it, and then they're like, who's that somebody? And they're like, well, that somebody could be Saturn, and Saturn's like, I'm not that somebody. And it's that's just, I don't know, it's very disjointed, and yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sure a lot of that shit looked good on paper, or in theory, because you got Sabu and RVD they've been killing it as a tag team, and the Eliminators coming in, and they've been there for a little while now, but they're coming in with the reputation of being the best tag team in the world. They're not going to let Sabu and RVD get their shit in on top of them. Of course they're going to get their shit in. It's just that whose shit is going to actually happen. It makes sense during the body of the match. So I guess at the end of the day, that would have been the story over like what tag team is like better. But they didn't really. We're just figuring that out now. 35 years later,
right?
Or whatever it is. But it was fine. I mean, I'm sure if you were there, it was great, right?
Yeah, and Sabu winds up accidentally moonsaulting RVD, so the Eliminators get total elimination on RVD for the 3 count. Then after the match, they give Sabu a total elimination for good measure.
Yeah, they did.
They smoked him with a total elimination. I think
Sabu
they might have not.
Sabu takes that bump really good, dude. He really takes the total elimination.
They knocked the velvet off those pants.
Yes, they did.
RVD attacks the Eliminators, which brings out Taz with a chair. Taz clocks RVD with the chair, puts RVD in the Taz mission, and I believe
we got the preview of the next show.
Yeah, the Eliminators hold Sabu, so he has to watch Taz with the Taz mission, and then Taz slaps Sabu, and they put another total elimination on Sabu.
Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Like what we kind of seen recently.
Good heat-seeking missile here for the end of the show. The heels are putting the sometimes in ECW it's hard to tell the heels from the faces, but the Eliminators and Taz were absolutely the heels in this situation.
Well, Paul always looked at it like the crowd decided. That was one thing that I really liked about ECW.
Mm-hmm.
Paul never told me I was a heel. Like I went out to that ring, and that crowd just fucking shit on me. So I'm a heel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of times in ECW, the only 2 guys you can tell for sure are bad guys are Shane Douglas and Raven. And even Raven's shades of gray. Shane Douglas is absolutely a fucking heel.
Yeah, all right. I mean, there's people in life that are just heels, I mean, but there's also a bunch of guys out there, and I'm sure that Aaron's probably got a friends that probably think the same way of him. That he's all right, and some other crews going, that guy's an idiot, or that guy's a dick. Probably a dick more than an idiot. But you know what I mean, right?
An idiot.
Yeah. I think. But you can see what I mean. There's going to be like crews of guys out there that are like, one guy likes them, another guy doesn't like them. He's like, what do you mean? And that's where pro wrestling is great, is when you can actually decide for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need John Cena shitting on me, or telling me that I stink, or any of the stuff that he's been. It's ridiculous. It's worse than his acting in his movies. John Cena going out there and pretending to be a heel. It's terrible. And that's what I looked at it like in wrestling. Like, you don't have to do that. And I guess I got off topic, but Raven was definitely he was a heel.
If you're naturally a heel, you'll come off as a heel, you know.
Right.
And then some, like you were saying, sometimes the crowd decides. Some people never change their gimmick, and for a while the fans like them. And like, for instance, I told Aaron I could not believe that The Rock did not flop his ego into WrestleMania.
There's a reason behind that. I don't know what it is, but there's the reason why.
The Rock is always the same guy, whether babyface or heel. He doesn't change.
Well, it's like I told you, like if you look at modern wrestling, the guy you'd be able to say that with would be Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns hasn't is. So his character has now gotten to the point where he's not a heel, he's not a babyface, he's whatever.
He's the champion. I mean, maybe
deciding it. You know what I mean? Like his character's either if you like me, you like me. If you don't, you know. I don't give a fuck. And
yeah, but that goes back to the realism of pro wrestling and what ECW is doing. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're good, like if you're a good wrestler, the crowd's going to respond to you. But maybe you do, do a couple of little shady little things or whatever. But at that point, the guys probably did it to you, so the crowd's going to expect you to do it back to them. So yeah, it's great how ECW could just let the crowd blur the lines, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
And this might sound stupid, but like when I just brought up Roman Reigns, if you look at that ECW roster at that time, if you compare something in the past to something now, Taz is kind of the Roman Reigns of ECW. You know what I mean? It's like he's just the guy that
he's just always Taz.
Yeah.
He
didn't like Sabu. He didn't like RVD. He didn't like Donnie Allen. He didn't like Hervé Renesto. You know what I mean? He didn't like any of all them ham bones.
He didn't even like Bill Alfonso.
No. He didn't yell up. Yeah. So, yeah, Taz was just like, dude, I am the man here. I don't care if you like me or not. It's like,
Alfonso's his wise man.
Let's not go there. That's a whole different story.
This is Whistle Man.
Well,
but it's like,
ooh, but Bill Alfonso's your wise man. You're in trouble,
Daddy.
Whatever, Daddy. Where can Bill Alfonso get time to read some crap?
All right, let's close this up.
Yes, we. Overall, I would say I actually did enjoy this episode of ECW, and I like I said, I enjoyed it. I gave it like a B+. There was nothing on here I didn't like.
No.
I liked the show from top to bottom.
Probably could have did without the Dreamer video, but yeah, all right.
All right, from almost the top to the bottom, halfway through the flat top to the bottom. I liked the show.
Yeah, it was good. I guess you were pretty accurate. A B, somewhere around a B minus was probably solid enough. Yeah, it was, and we're getting there. Like I noticed in our grades that we're all slowly getting there. Like we're all kind of like in the same ballpark, whether it's a B or whatever. Good sign, man.
All right, Aaron, you agree about a B?
I agree. Yeah, I like the show.
Well, that being said, we'll sign off for this week. And next week, we will be back to relive the Extreme some more. I think it's February 18th. 1997 is going to be the next edition of the show that we watch. So check us out on the WNR Podcast Network group on Facebook, the WNR Podcast Network page on YouTube, and, of course, anywhere you find your audio podcast. So we'll see everybody next week on Reliving the Extreme.
Peace.